Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm 32 years old, and for a long time, I believed love was about patience, trust, and standing by someone's side no matter what. But now, when I look back, I wonder if I was just foolish. I don't really like telling people this story. It makes me feel weak sometimes. But maybe, just maybe, someone out there will understand. Maybe someone needs to hear this. Maybe someone feels what I felt. So here's what happened. I met Jake when I was 24. He was funny, loud, confident, the kind of man who walks into a room and makes everyone laugh. I was the quiet type, a little shy. I worked at a local bookstore. He sold cars and always had a story to tell. He used to say, "Rachel, you're too serious. You need to live a little." I'd laugh because he was right. At first, it felt exciting. He made me feel seen, noticed, important. He brought me flowers after our first date, sunflowers. I still remember how bright they looked on my small kitchen table. He said they reminded him of me. Warm, bright, a little awkward, but beautiful. He joked. I should have noticed how he laughed after every compliment, like he couldn't say something kind without covering it in a joke. But I ignored that, because I loved him. We got married 2 years later, a small wedding, just close family and friends. My dress was secondhand, but I didn't care. I felt beautiful. I felt ready. He kissed my forehead before we walked into the church and whispered, "Don't mess this up, bookworm." I smiled. I thought it was cute. But now, I replay that moment in my head too much. The first year of marriage was okay. Not perfect, but okay. He worked long hours, came home tired, sometimes forgot to ask me about my day, but I told myself, he's busy. He's providing. I worked part-time at the library by then. I cooked dinner every night. Tried new recipes, lit candles, made our home feel warm. But slowly, he stopped noticing. "Why are you always making weird food?" he'd ask. "Just make something normal." So I stopped trying. I went back to pasta and plain chicken. He didn't notice that either. There was one night I can't forget. It was raining, loud and heavy. I was sitting by the window reading Little Women, one of my favorite books. Jake came home, threw his jacket on the couch, and sighed loud enough for me to hear from the other room. "What's for dinner?" he asked, not even looking at me. I said, "I made soup. I thought it'd be nice since it's raining." He rolled his eyes. "Soup isn't dinner. It's just hot water with stuff floating in it." That night, I ate alone. He ordered pizza and didn't say a word to me. I cried quietly in the shower. I didn't want him to hear. I didn't want him to think I was too emotional or too soft, like he used to say. It's strange how things change slowly. Not like a big crash, more like a slow leak. Little things. Like how he stopped calling me during lunch breaks. How he started making fun of my dreams. I once told him, "I think I want to go back to school. Maybe study writing or literature." He laughed and said, "What for? So you can write poems no one will read?" I tried to laugh too, to act like it didn't hurt. But it did. God, it did. One night, I stood in front of the mirror and asked myself something I never thought I'd ask. Am I stupid for loving him? Because love isn't supposed to make you feel small, right? Love is supposed to feel like home. But with Jake, I felt like a guest, like someone who needed permission to speak, to feel, to dream. I remember this one Saturday morning. I baked blueberry muffins, his favorite. I even added a little lemon zest because he liked that. He came into the kitchen, looked at the plate, and said, "Trying too hard again, Rachel?" He didn't even take one. That day, I packed the muffins in a box and gave them to the neighbor's kids. They smiled, said thank you. One of them hugged me. That small hug, It made me cry when I got back inside, because it had been weeks since I felt wanted. Sometimes I blamed myself. Maybe I was boring. Maybe I wasn't fun enough, sexy enough, smart enough. Maybe I really was foolish. But deep down, I knew the truth. He didn't see me. Not really. Not the way someone should see the person they love. I had a best friend, Mia. She always told me, "Rach, love is not supposed to feel like walking on eggshells." I used to defend him. "You don't understand. He works hard. He's just tired." But one day, she looked me in the eyes and said something I'll never forget. She said, "Rachel, tired doesn't mean unkind." That sentence stayed with me. Tired doesn't mean unkind. I tried to talk to him more than once. I told him I felt invisible. He laughed. "Invisible? You're always talking about feelings. What do you want from me, Rachel? I go to work, I pay bills, I come home. What more do you need? What more do I need?" I wanted to scream, "I want you. I want your love, your presence, your warmth." But I didn't scream. I stayed quiet, because part of me still hoped he'd change. Then came the night I broke. It was our 3rd anniversary. I bought a card, wrote a small letter inside, talked about the day we met. How I still remembered his sunflower smile. I made his favorite dinner, set the table, wore the dress he said he liked once. He came home late. No flowers, no card, not even a happy anniversary. He looked at the table, then at me and said, "Oh, I forgot. Sorry, can we eat tomorrow? I'm tired." I just stood there, frozen. My heart, it shattered in that moment. Not loudly, just quietly, like glass slipping off a shelf and hitting the floor before you can catch it. That night, I didn't cry. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking, feeling empty, feeling like maybe I really was foolish for trying, for hoping, for believing that love could be simple and kind. I don't know when I started to disappear. Maybe it was after the 5th dinner he ignored, or the 10th time he called my dreams silly, or the 100th time he made me feel like too much and not enough all at once. But I know I started to lose myself. And when you lose yourself, it's hard to breathe, hard to smile, hard to even remember who you used to be. I used to sing while cooking, used to dance around the living room when it rained, used to write poems in the margins of my notebook. But I stopped all of that because he said it was weird and pointless and childish, so I became quiet, smaller, like a shadow of who I used to be. I know this sounds dramatic. I know some people might say, "It's not abuse, he's just not romantic." But love without kindness is a slow kind of poison. It doesn't break bones. It breaks hearts, silently. I started going to the library again, alone, sat in the back corner, read old books, and one day I opened a notebook and wrote, "I miss me." Just that. Those 3 words. I stared at them for minutes, because they felt so true, so loud, so painful. That was the start of something. A small voice inside me saying, "You deserve more." I wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. But something had changed. I couldn't go back to pretending everything was fine, because it wasn't. And that's where I'll pause for now. That's the first half of my story. The second half is where things begin to shift, where I start to listen to that small voice. And maybe, just maybe, I stop being foolish. I didn't leave right away. I wish I could say I packed my bags the next morning and walked away with strength in my step and peace in my heart. But I didn't. I stayed. For a while. Because I wasn't just scared of losing Jake. I was scared of losing the life I thought I was supposed to have. The home, the routines, the memories, and yes, the hope. Even when love feels heavy, sometimes hope keeps you stuck. But little things started to change. I stopped waiting for him to come home. I started doing things just for me. I went to the cafe across from the library. I sat by the window, ordered tea with extra lemon, read for hours. I didn't tell him. He never asked. That part always hurt more than I expected. How he never seemed to care where I was. One evening, I found an old box in the closet. Inside were notebooks, poems, short stories I'd written years ago. I smiled. I cried. Because I missed her. The girl who believed in words. The girl who believed in herself. She was still there, a little broken, but still breathing. I started writing again. Small things, a few lines a day. Sometimes about the rain, sometimes about being invisible, sometimes about strength. Not loud strength, quiet strength. The kind that whispers, "I'm still here." Then something happened. It was small but big to me. Jake had one of his usual moods. Came home, threw his keys on the table, and saw my notebook. He picked it up and said, "Still writing your little poems?" I looked at him. Something in me didn't shrink this time. I said, "Yes, I am." He raised an eyebrow. "Why? No one reads that stuff." I said, "I do." And I took the notebook from his hand, walked away. That moment may seem tiny, but it was the first time I stood up. Even just a little. I told Mia about it the next day. She smiled, held my hand, and said, "That's my girl." We sat on her porch for hours, talking, laughing, and something started to feel lighter. Like maybe the sky wasn't always gray. A few weeks later, I saw a flyer at the library. Evening writing class, beginner's welcome. It was on Thursdays, 6 to 8 p.m. My heart started to beat fast. I wanted to go. I wanted to say yes to something. Something for me. When I told Jake, he didn't even look up from the TV. A writing class? Seriously? Waste of time. I said, "It's important to me." He scoffed. "Don't blame me when you realize it's useless." That night, I signed up anyway. And I went. With my heart pounding and hands shaking. But I went. The class was beautiful. Simple. Warm. There were 5 of us. All different ages. One woman was 70. Another was 17. We sat around a round table, shared stories, and encouraged each other. No one laughed at me. No one told me I was foolish. I cried on the way home. Not because I was sad, but because I remembered how it felt to belong. For the next few months, I kept going. Every Thursday. Even when Jake rolled his eyes. Even when he didn't ask how it went. Even when he said things like, "You could be home making dinner instead of playing writer." I went anyway. Because those 2 hours every week were mine. Just mine. One evening, after class, our teacher gave us a writing prompt. Write about a time you forgot how strong you were. I stared at the page for a long time. Then I wrote, and cried. Because I realized something. I had spent years being strong without even knowing it. Quiet strength, soft strength. The kind that holds you together when no one else will. I started dreaming again. Small dreams. Maybe publish a short story one day. Maybe help other women like me. Maybe, just maybe, live without fear. Then one night, something broke for real. Jake came home angry. His boss had yelled at him. Traffic was bad. The game didn't record. Everything was wrong, and I was his target. He shouted about dinner, about the laundry, about how nothing ever changes. And I just stood there, quiet, listening, until I couldn't anymore. I looked at him and said, "I'm not your punching bag." He paused. "What?" I repeated, my voice calm but clear. "I'm not your punching bag." He laughed. "You're being dramatic again." I shook my head. "No, I'm being honest." The next day, I packed a bag. Just one. Some clothes, my notebook, and the small framed photo of me and Mia from college. Jake didn't stop me. He didn't ask where I was going. Just said, "You'll be back. You always are." But I didn't go back. Not this time. I stayed with Mia for a few weeks. She gave me the guest room and made me coffee every morning. I cried a lot. Felt guilty. Felt scared. Felt like I was starting over at 32 with nothing. But then I'd write, or walk in the park, or help her cook, and I'd feel okay again. Not amazing, but okay. And that was enough. I found a small apartment near the library. 1 bedroom, 2nd floor, a window with just the right amount of sunlight. I bought secondhand furniture, hung fairy lights around the mirror, put my books on the shelves. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Jake didn't call much. He sent a few texts in the beginning. Said things like, "Hope you're happy. You always give up. You'll regret this." But I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I was healing. And I didn't owe him my pain anymore. One day I opened my notebook and wrote, "I'm not foolish, I'm free." And I believed it. For the first time, I believed it. A few months later, I read one of my short stories at a local open mic night. My hands were shaking the whole time. But when I finished, people clapped. One woman even said, "Your words, they touched me. Thank you." And that was everything. I won't lie. Some nights are still hard. Some memories still visit, like ghosts. But I light a candle, open my window, and whisper to myself, "You are not foolish for loving. You are only foolish for staying small." And now, I want to say something to you. Yes, you reading this. If you've ever felt unseen, if someone made you feel silly or soft or small, if they laughed at your dreams, please remember this. You are not foolish. You are human. You are allowed to love, to try, to fall, to rise again. Just don't forget yourself in the process. If someone makes you feel small all the time, that is not love. Real love lifts you. It makes you feel safe, seen, and strong. Don't wait for someone to see your worth. See it yourself first. And please, don't be afraid to start over, even if your voice shakes, even if your heart breaks. You deserve joy. You deserve peace. You deserve you. If you felt something from this story, please like the video and share it with someone who might need it. And if you're learning English through real stories like this, don't stop. Subscribe now and join us on this journey of healing, hope, and honest English learning. See you in the next story.